The TF2 community has been calm for too long. It's been at least 3 days since I saw anybody arguing about the game. The situation is dire, to say the least, which is why I've decided to intervene. Last week, I called upon each and every one of you to stir the pot by giving me your hottest, rawest, most unpopular take on Team Fortress 2, and 1,108 of you responded. Of those responses, I have plucked a handful that I know the community will respond to. These are Team Fortress 2's hottest takes. But first, good morning and welcome back to The Bread Bowl, the hottest and jazziest live commentary spot on YouTube where there's only one rule, which is kick back and share a nice warm drink with me. Today, I've got a BreadMann classic, a mocha. And if you don't have a drink yet, why don't you go get one while we take a look at the community board, which I'm very pleased with this time around. I got a ton of emails this time around, so choosing what I actually wanted to put up on the board was real tough, but I do want to mention that fan art is a very welcome addition to the board. Memes? Also welcome. Messages to me or the community, or even like fake advertisements or anything, all super good ideas. There's not a whole lot that I don't want to put up on the board, but please don't send me selfies of yourself or other people. Alright, so in front of me right now, I have a list of what I believe to be the hottest takes in the Team Fortress 2 community. And I won't even try and hide the fact that all of these responses are incredibly cherry-picked. And I've selected all of these for a variety of reasons, from it's truly one of the most baffling hot takes I've ever seen, which is what we want, right? We want the hot takes, the things I haven't heard anybody talking about before that are truly unpopular opinions. Some of them are just very common arguments that you hear around the community. Some of them I want to spin around into my own hot takes, and some of them I felt the need to respond to personally. So I wanted to maybe speedrun a little bit and do a bunch of hot takes for this video, but a lot of the responses that I got can generally be summarized by saying, I like this weapon, or I don't like this weapon. And that's fine, but I don't really consider those hot takes. I don't think. I've generally tried to stay away from anybody saying, this weapon is bad and here's why, because I guess to put it in my own words, as a hot take of my own, the first hot take of the video, if you will, I don't believe that there's a such thing as bad weapons in Team Fortress 2. I just think that different weapons serve different purposes in the game, and that not every weapon is going to be good in every single situation, which is by design from the developers. But I have a couple in here that are about weapons, and I think these ones are more about the baffling opinion of whoever submitted the response rather than the opinion on the weapon itself. I guess basically I just didn't want to have to sit here the entire time defending other people's opinions on weapons that I don't really care about. I guess I could sum up most of the weapon discourse and discussion, and there was a lot of it in the comment sections. With this, my second hot take of the video, scrolling through this comment section and looking at some of the most frigid takes ever. These opinions are the TF2 equivalent of, worms are actually not that gross. And after reading through literally every single of the 1,000 answers submitted, I can't help but kind of agree with that. Also, feel free to drop your own hot takes in the comment section below. Maybe try to stay away from weapons, or just, I like this weapon. Just try and stay away from that kind of stuff. I want the hot ones. I want to hear your most unpopular opinions. Alright, and with all that being said, let's get in with my first hot take. This one comes from Indy, so you know it's gonna be good. If Sniper got straight up removed tomorrow, the game would become 10 times more fun. Okay. Probably 40% of the comments I received were people talking about which weapons they do and don't like. About 50% of the responses were talking about Sniper. 25 of that 50% was planted firmly in remove or nerf the Sniper, and the other half was firmly in the camp of, I don't think Sniper needs to be changed at all. You're all just babies who were bad at the game. And There's so much discourse around this conversation that if you state yourself as having one opinion over the other, it's already a hot take. Both sides are hot takes in the view of the other side, so I guess in my personal opinion, I don't think the sniper needs to be changed. As far as sniper being too good of a class or too easy to play, I really think that depends on the player, and I don't think that it's representative of the class when a bunch of bots who can automatically aim at your head dominate the game for 3 years. I think it would be a little silly to think that someone who's been playing this game for 10 years wouldn't be absolutely amazing at sniper, and I think it's kind of given people the impression that sniper is a super easy class to learn. But the problem with that is sniper is not an easy class to play. And how do I know this? Because I have been playing for 10 years, and I cannot play sniper. I just can't do it. I guarantee you that if I'm playing sniper in a server, there is not a soul complaining about sniper being overpowered. Nobody's gonna be talking about how this sniper is dominating the whole server or anything. No one's even gonna be paying attention to me. So I think that's just where the argument kind of originates, is that sniper, when being played good, is really good at his job, but to the average or just mid-tier player, sniper is just okay at his job, and I think that's kind of where it's supposed to be. I think the thought process behind sniper was that it's supposed to be more of a self-regulating class in terms of strength on the team. I'm the reason the sniper is balanced. It's balanced because I'm not good at it. It's skill balancing is what it is. And I don't think when they were originally making the class of sniper, they were thinking about people that were going to be playing this 15 years down the line, who've been playing since launch, that are now so good that they can just dominate any server that they're in. Which I guess you could say is a flaw in the design philosophy of sniper. I mean, why would you make such a powerful class self-regulating? But I can also understand why they might have not had the foresight to look 15 years down the line when making this game. On top of that, a really good sniper is of course going to punish your team if you don't have counters for sniper. And I feel like that's something that gets left out of the argument a lot of the time as well. Which brings me to my next and only other hot take about the sniper, which is that his counters are not fun at all. It's no fun having to glue yourself to cover or else, oops, your head got clicked and you're out. Or having to switch to sniper yourself just to deal with them. Not saying he can't be countered, it's just no fun. More often than not, and yes, I'm aware that there are more, but they've got their own problems, and that'd be too much to list right now. So this one I felt the need to personally include and respond to because I think it's really bold to say it's no fun countering a sniper. How about you say that to snipers on 2 Fort, who do nothing but stare at each other and click at each other's heads for hours on end. Why don't you go tell that to them, huh? Why don't you see if they have a problem countering other snipers, huh? That's also to imply that the only way to counter a sniper is by also becoming a sniper yourself. Like, come on. So yes, becoming a sniper yourself is a way to counter sniper. I personally enjoy it. I know not everybody does, but I feel like it's really bold to say that it's no fun at all. And this take in particular also doesn't really acknowledge any other ways to counter sniper at all. For instance, playing spy, maybe? I think spy is a horribly fun class, and there's nothing I enjoy more than sneaking up behind a sniper than just getting that free backstab because they're too focused on watching my team. But also, I don't think you have to glue yourself to cover to avoid getting clicked and getting out of the game. Like, I don't think that's a fair way to put it. I think a far better way to put it is put myself out in the open and get sniped. Shame on you. Put myself out in the open and get sniped 10 more times. Shame on me. You know, on one hand, while I can understand that some snipers are absolutely god tier, able to x-ray through the walls and see where you are and know your every single move for the next 10 minutes, yeah, I understand why that can be frustrating, but at the same time, if you find yourself repeatedly getting sniped, that tells me you're probably not positioning right, and there's probably no one on your team working to counter said sniper. I've spent too much time talking about the sniper. I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna move on to my next hot take. Just play comp if you don't like random grids. There's a reason they exist. This is very similar to the sniper conversation in the sense that there's a whole lot of people on both sides of this argument shouting back and forth at one another, oh, nice hot take, they're real fair and balanced. And other people saying, what? You don't like random crits? I bet you're the same kind of person that plays Smash Bros. With the items off, aren't you? Huh, there's a hot take for you. It's again one of those things that's almost not even worth talking about because there's so many people on both sides, but that's kind of why I want to talk about it. I want to start problems in the community. I want to start arguments. I want people to be shouting back and forth at each other in my own comment section. But the reason I picked this one specifically is not because I want to talk so much about whether or not random crits are balanced or not, but I want to just comment on the take that they aren't balanced, and if you disagree, you should go play competitive. What? Is if that would be a solution to the problem? Let me tell you a fun fact about me. I'm checking right now. The last time I played competitive was on December 20th, 2016. That was 7 years ago. I have not touched competitive in 7 years. And I understand fully that there are some people who do play and enjoy competitive, but let me ask you this, when was the last time you played competitive? If you're watching this, I want you to sit down and think for a second. If you've ever played competitive, when was the last time you did it? And if you have done it recently, did you have a good time? Did you enjoy playing competitive? And let me ask you this, if you are someone who doesn't enjoy random crits in the game, do you want your only solution to that, instead of maybe just turning them off in the server, do you want to go play competitive to escape them? As if this is the one definitive way to fix it? I guess to formally state my opinion, I enjoy random crits in the game, and I truly, firmly do believe that they are fair and balanced because, hey, they're random. They can happen to anybody, and they do happen to everybody. So, I guess to really sum it all up, I think that if you don't like random crits, you're a baby, and you shouldn't be playing the game. No, I can see both sides, but I do firmly believe that they're fair. It's just incredibly silly to think that. I bet this person who commented this hasn't even played competitive at all. Otherwise, they wouldn't be saying this. Alright, up next, Payload is an unfun game mode that encourages a Death Valley Siege playstyle above all else. It's popular because it gets unskilled players to play the objective, essentially by forcing them to do it via weak flank routes and coaxing them into it with healing. The problems with other game modes are generally caused by pub players being too passive and deathmatch focused. Payload does not punish these bad habits, but instead caters to them by tricking players into pushing forward by taking away their agency. The game mode is almost entirely centralized around Demoman, Medic, Sniper, and Engineer, and mostly consists of full teams fighting the same general areas. It's simply impossible to make calculated, deliberate decisions with so many players condensed in a single area. And the fights are so chaotic that you can never really tell when you're making mistakes. I could easily top score on Payload with Soldier, but it's simply not fun. I'd just be doing the same thing over and over, instead of being forced to think dynamically and adapt on the fly. I'm punished for not doing the same easy strat repeatedly. The challenge is instead self-imposed. I must invent reasons to diverge from the easy path to have more fun. This take is absolutely, without a doubt, one of the juiciest responses that I got, without a doubt, because this is absolutely insane. I firmly believe that the person who wrote this fundamentally does not understand the game that they're playing and what makes it fun, or dare I say, even how to have fun playing the game. Team Fortress 2 has kind of created the Payload game mode as we know it today. You know, the same kind of game mode that you see in a game like Overwatch. And on top of that, Payload is basically the Team Fortress 2 game mode. It's like the core game mode. If you were to take out every single game mode in Team Fortress 2 except one, if you had to, the one I would leave in would be Doomsday. No, Payload, of course. It's the most popular game mode. It probably has the most maps out of any other game mode. I personally find it to be the third most fun game mode after Doomsday and Payload Race. So one of the big problems here is that it gets unskilled players to play the objective by forcing them to do it. And the way that it forces you to do it is with weak flank routes and by healing you. Okay, so to just stop it right there, when has it ever been a bad thing to incentivize players to play the objective? Unless you're specifically looking to just play deathmatch, why would you not want to play the objective? And more than that, why would you not want to get rewarded for playing the objective, right? It's not like you have to play the objective. The game isn't forcing you to play it, but it does reward you a little bit. But even on top of that, the rewards for playing the objective aren't necessarily worth it if you are just looking to play deathmatch. My reason for pushing the payload has never been the little bit of healing that I get from it. In fact, if I just wanted healing, I would probably just go find a health pack or a medic or even a dispenser, because pretty much anything else would heal me better than the payload would. And you only need like 1 or 2 players on the payload at any given moment to be moving at a pretty substantial amount, so like, I just don't really understand what this person is trying to say by meaning they're forced to play the objective. I hate being forced to play the objective. Like, what? I guess if you wanted to consider payload flank routes weak because they take you away from the objective, you could. I mean, you don't want to stay on the objective 100% of the time because you need to be able to flank around the enemy team at least a little bit to help like break their defenses. And then this game mode is entirely centralized around Demoman, Medic, Sniper, and Engineer? I don't know, I mean, like, I guess? I guess as far as having each of these classes on your team, both on attack and defense, they both serve a good purpose, and you need them, but I guess that's kind of true for any game mode in the game? Is this supposed to mean that you wouldn't need things like spies, scouts, and heavies? Or soldiers, because all of those classes serve very important roles in the game mode and overall the game as a whole. I think that this part of the comment alone is kind of a fundamental misunderstanding of each class's role in the game. Because yes, those classes are important to payload, but so are the rest of them, in a sense that you need to counter, and you need to play different strategies, and they're also saying that each map, because it has choke points, that's bad, because you have to do the same thing on each choke point every single time you're on it, but that's also not true. And also, even if it was, that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, I don't think. If you think you have to be doing the same thing every single time on the same map, then I firmly believe, hot take, you are not playing the game right. The thing that makes Team Fortress fun to play is the variety of playstyles with each class, and the things you can do with different team compositions, or just what subclasses you're playing. There's a million different ways you can play out any situation. So to say that you need to play any one situation only one way is denying yourself the dynamic gameplay that you're asking for. To say that the challenge of the game is self-imposed isn't exactly a bad thing, like, so self-impose that challenge on yourself. Play it differently. Don't play the same way every single time. That's what makes the game fun. You don't have to play the same way every single time, right? I think this might be my favorite hot take in the whole video. It's got me like heated. It's got me like a little bit heated trying to figure out a way to talk my way around this. I think that this take in particular suffers from a bad case of being too opinionated, which I guess is what makes it a hot take, but like, oh, it's frustrating. I'm moving on, talking about something else. Another hot take I have on here is Steel is the best map in the game alongside Sulfur. I agree. I 100% agree. I love this take, and I know it's unpopular. I'm gonna use this as an excuse to talk about Sulfur, because I love Sulfur. Oh my god. Now, I will give the opposing side credit. I will agree that Sulfur and Steel are a little confusing to the average player. I still get lost on Steel, and when I first loaded into Sulfur, I did not understand what was going on for the first, like, at least 5 rounds. But once you know what you're doing, once you know how to get everywhere on the map, once you know how everything works, it's so fun. It is so fun. First of all, visually, Sulfur, beautiful. It is one of my favorite maps visually ever in the entire game. I love this style that both maps like Sweden and Sulfur have. I think it's so pretty. I think it fits so well into the art style. It's amazing. All 4 points on Sulfur are wonderful. Each one of them is its own unique arena that is so fun to fight on. On top of each one being visually distinct and stunning, each one of them is so well designed. Every single point has variety, different levels of verticality, different ways to cover and fight around the point, different environmental hazards. It's beautiful. It's beautiful design. And I get it, it's almost hard to defend this because it's so confusing. It's not exactly an uncommon occurrence on Sulfur to be on point C and literally be the only person over there because no one else knows how to get there. But it's so fun! I love it! I love it! On top of that, purely is a game mode, and while, again, it's confusing because the game mode doesn't, there's nothing that explicitly says you can do this, but being able to go and try and capture the last point by itself is more of a King of the Hill type game mode, I think is also such a creative and fun decision. Just like I was talking about in the hot take before this one, your ability to change up your class, subclass, and playstyle and loadout, the variety is what makes Team Fortress 2 so great. So when you put that variety of gameplay into the map design, it fits in perfectly. Alright, that one got me excited. Alright, this one in particular made me laugh the second I read it, and I knew for a fact that I had to keep this one in. The Vaccinator isn't that overpowered. You can absolutely stomp me using it if you rush, melee, or push with your team. This is such a ridiculous statement to make. To state my opinion on the Vaccinator, I love it. It's actually one of my favorite miniguns to use. I think that it allows me to be more conscious when playing as a medic, having to switch up which kind of damage I'm protecting from. I like the fact that I get to be more active as a medic. I like the fact that I get to Uber more often. I think it's balanced. I think it's the most fun medigun to use. I think it's overall just a really good option. You can absolutely stomp me using it if you melee rush me. Okay, if you're someone who doesn't like the Vaccinator, who does think it's overpowered, how do you feel about melee rushing it? In what reality would that be a solution to the problem? I just don't really see any scenario in which you are facing off, you know, going head on with a medic any class combo with your melee weapons out. There's no reality in which you don't get punished for that. What's that? Out in the distance. A Demo Man medic combo? Oh, I know how to deal with them. Let me grab my conscientious objector real quick. This'll make quick work of them. Huh? I think that this is just so stupid. It's just like a stupid thing to say. And I have no disrespect towards the person that said this, because you know what? I respect it. I respect the confidence in which they came forward and dropped this comment under my post. I respect it. And this is without a doubt a strategy that I will be trying in the future because this is so funny. This is such a funny strategy to suggest. There is an argument to be made on why the Vaccinator is not overpowered. And I know, I already made one. But this is not the argument you want to be using. This alone made the credibility of the Vaccinator go down by like 10%. This comment alone did that, and I want, if you drop this comment and you're watching this, I want you to know this is not the way. This is really funny. This is really funny. It's horribly funny. But this is not the way to go about it. And the last weapon one I've got is the Ambassador did not deserve its big nerf considering the existence of the Diamondback. Buff it back up. I think this comment highlights an issue, but not the one that it's trying to. I don't think the Ambassador needs to change at all. I think it did deserve to be nerfed, and I think it's still a very viable choice. However, to say that because the Diamondback is so powerful that the Ambassador deserves to be buffed up, I think is the wrong way to go about this. I think you've got it backwards. The existence of the Diamondback working as well as it does not mean we should buff the Ambassador, but maybe we should take the Diamondback down to Ambassador level, yeah? And this is kind of a hard one for me to talk about specifically because I haven't really used the Ambassador or the Diamondback a whole lot. Take this how you will. I'm an Enforcer user. I love the Enforcer. It's my favorite spy revolver. The argument you hear a lot of the time in defense of the Diamondback is that all it does is reward you for doing your job as a spy. If you're using the Diamondback, I think you should be rewarded for getting all the backstabs, for zapping any engineer buildings. That's your job as a spy. It's good to get rewarded for that. I think this conversation also kind of falls in line with the remove the sniper debate, in the sense that the Diamondback is kind of skill regulating a little bit. A spy who's not very good at the game isn't going to be getting as many crits as a spy who's really good at the game. So in that sense, the weapon is fair in that if you're not very good at the game, you're not going to get rewarded as much, but if you're really good at the game, then you're going to get rewarded a lot. And there's not necessarily anything that's unfair about that, but I will say that I think that the Ambassador rewards you a little bit too much. I like this take because it kind of highlights an issue in the wrong way, or in a backwards way, and I respect this response. It's actually one I really like that I got. Hot take. The reason that this game has been abandoned by Valve has nothing to do with the spaghetti code. It's instead because the game's community is awful and makes itself look awful at every possible opportunity. Due to its constant immaturity, low intelligence, terminally onlineness, toxic and vitriolic nature, it means every time the community opens its mouth, it reinforces the notion that it is a stain on Valve's reputation, and something that Valve as a company is incentivized for their best interest to distance themselves from. This is big. This is huge right here. This is a very bold statement to be making, because this is something that the community's been talking about for years. Why has Valve abandoned us? Why don't we get more updates? And while I think there is a lot to say about the toxicity of the community, or the things the community does or says, I don't think that's the issue, right? Because in terms of the toxicity of the community, well, yes, there are toxic players. I think there's also a lot of good players and good things that happen in the community. Like, save TF2, sure. That didn't exactly work out the way we all would have wanted it to, but it was a very positive community event. And most of the creators in the TF2 community are also creating wonderful, good content, putting a good name to everybody in the game itself. I think that there's a lot of positive things to look on in the community right now. So when discussing why Valve doesn't want to interact with the game anymore, I think there's a couple reasons. One of them being the community, but not for the same reason that this comment is suggesting. I don't really think Valve cares about the toxicity of the community. I don't really think any developer cares about the toxicity of their game community as long as it makes money. If Valve really did care about the toxicity of the community, I don't think that they would be supporting games like CSGO either, and they do, right? CSGO just got ported over to Source 2 officially, and their community and player base is horrible, probably worse than ours. So where's Valve? Why aren't they supporting us like they support this other toxic game? The error in our ways as a community is in the way that we view Valve as a company. I think that because Valve put out like less than 10 good games over 10 years ago, public perception of them as a company has been boosted to the general viewer, and it really shouldn't have been, because the way I look at it, Valve isn't really any better or different than companies like EA or Ubisoft. As long as a game is making money, and Team Fortress 2 does, then they don't really need to do anything. If it ain't broke, then why fix it, right? Team Fortress 2 makes Valve an absurd amount of money, and the only thing that they need to do to continue making money off this game is just adding in more things for us to buy every now and then. So if that's all they have to do to keep making money, why would they do anything else? This gaming community isn't a stain on Valve's reputation, it is a money machine that's been chugging along for almost 2 decades.